Hello, my name is Sam. This is my second video on how to program in Prolog. Today I'm going to show you how to write a Prolog script, how to pass arguments from the command line into Prolog, and how to set an initialization goal. So let's start. We're going to launch Prolog with our normal command Prolog. Remember, you can also type swipple, like so, but I use Prolog because that's the version that I want to launch. You can see that this always starts with a welcome message. If I didn't want that welcome message to always come up, I can type halt, so exit out of Prolog, and I can launch it with the option quiet, and then we have the Prolog prompt but without all the kind of welcoming stuff. So maybe that's useful. So we're going to edit a new file. We're going to call this script. So the first thing we're going to do is show you how to make an initialization goal. We're going to have a goal called main, and this will always run. So we've given this directive to initialize Prolog with the goal main, and the goal main will be achieved by writing this will always run to the console. So we save that. I'm going to just go straight out of Prolog here, back into it. So what we've got here is we've got start Prolog, -s, the file that we want to launch, and then -- quiet. This will always run. Exactly what we wanted. So let's edit our script again. So what about if we want to get arguments that we've passed in from the command line? The way to do that in Prolog is with this command, current Prolog flag argv, and then so this is a variable which we've also called argv, and this will be unified with a list of all the arguments that we've passed into it. So we've initialized Prolog here without any additional arguments, and so this will be an empty list to start with. So when we ask that, that's what we get, an empty list. I'll show you what happens when we give it a couple of initial values. We're going to use foo and bar. We've had our goal, this will always run. And if we ask it current Prolog flag argv, then we see that that's unified to a list of foo and bar. So maybe we want to edit our script to output those. So remember, this is the entire list. Let's change this to this ran with these hints. So remember, the format looks a bit like printf in C, where we have a list of variables which will be put in where the placeholders are. So we have one variable here which is a list, and this will be put in where this single W is here, and this will give a new line. So we'll save that. So now if we do make here, this will reinitialize the main goal. So we will get this line here with the list foo and bar, which is quite nice. But what if we wanted to do something like addition. So we wanted to add two arguments together. Then we'd want to unify this with the first, second, and then the rest of the list, which we've just done as an anonymous variable, because in this case we've just passed two arguments in, so this list is foo bar, and there's also the empty list as the third item in this list. So we're not interested in that, so that will just be rest. So now we have two arguments in our format, so let's just make that. You can see that this ran with these arguments foo and bar. Now what about if we did that, but instead of foo and bar we've got 5 and 10. So this ran with these arguments 5 and 10. And you might think you can directly manipulate these, but as you can see, what actually we get if we do this is we've got single quotes around these values. So Prolog is treating this as a character representation rather than an actual number, and so if you wanted to do some sort of arithmetic with these, then we'd need to convert them into numbers. You're not really converting them, you just want to find the value which is equivalent to the character representation, because in Prolog variables are immutable and they don't ever really change, so you have to have a new variable which would then be unified with the equivalent number. So let's do this. So we want term to atom, and we'll call this T first, second, and so sum is T first plus T second. Sum here. So term to atom, this is a relation which is the relation between the term and the atom representation. So we're going to get the arguments as a list, arg value. We're going to split that list into the first item, the second item, and the rest of the list. We're going to ignore the rest of the list. The first item, we're going to find what its term representation will be. Second item, we're going to find what its term representation will be. We're going to say that the sum is the this value of T first plus T second, and we're going to output that. So remember, if we do make here, because we've got the initialization, it's going to straight away run that, which it hasn't done because we haven't got the file loaded. So let's just load the file this time. And we haven't saved this. So let's try that again. Make sum 15. Okay. Hopefully you followed that. Just because I hadn't loaded the file and then I hadn't saved the file. But now we've got it loaded and we've got it saved. And you can see that when we passed in these two arguments, we get the sum 15. So again, just to show you, let's do 3 and 9. Sum is 12. Now, we've done that in one way, but we can do this in a slightly more interesting way by taking advantage of a few things that Prolog can do. So, if we change this to atomic list concat log v single arg, let's just set it like that. So atomic list concat will define a relationship between a list and a single argument, and with these things which are the gaps in between. So we're just going to have that as 2 quotes, and we can then do term to atom, but over the whole concatenated term. So and then we can just evaluate the entire term. And I'm going to change this to val, just because we will be able to put in more than addition here. So just to show you what that will do. Now we're going to actually put in what we want to do in here. So we're passing 3 arguments here, 3 plus 9. And you see that is evaluated to 12. So again, let's just show you exactly what's happened here. If we did current Prolog add you see that we've got a list of 3 things, 3 plus 9. If we did that and we did atomic list concat with arg v single, you see that we get this single term here, which is an atomic value 3 plus 9. Then if we did term to atom, term single, so then we haven't got this quote, so this is the whole term, 3 plus 9, and then we could say val is term, and we get the answer 12. So again, just to show you some of the power of what we've now got, is we can do, say, 3 minus 9 minus x, or about, let's just get out of here, 9 divided by 3. Okay, it's kind of interesting. One thing to be careful of is if you're going to do multiplication, and you will have to put that in single quotes, because otherwise the bash shell will interpret the star as a list of files, and it will give you a list of all the files. So you'd have to do that 9 in quotes times 3, 27. So just to show you what I mean by, let's just go in here a second. I'm just going to comment out that line here, comment out that line here, comment out that line here. I'm just going to put arg v back here for a second. I'm going to port this. If if I then do star here, you see it's found all the files that are in my current directory, which isn't what I wanted. Whereas if I did then we get the star, which will be our multiplication operator. So that's just one thing to be careful of. It depends on what shell you're using. So let's go back into this. We're going to uncomment these lines. Going to put val back in here. And we're going to make a couple of changes here. One is we're going to add halt, because we want Prolog to close once it's done this. And so just to show you what happens now. So now if I make, it's going to, okay, let's not make it because we haven't passed in some good arguments. Halt anyway. Prolog -s script yeah, and we will put 5 plus 10. And you see that it's immediately output 15, but it's also exited out of the Prolog prompt and gone back into the bash shell. So let's go back into Prolog, let's edit our script. What we're going to do now is actually change this to actually run as a proper script, in the sense of something you don't need to write the word Prolog on the bash shell to launch it. So we can do that by putting this command at the top. Remember, you can put Prolog or Swipple here, depending on what you want. That. We're going to rename this file to get rid of the file extension. We're going to make sure that we've given this permission to be allowed to be executed. And now we can just type /script 5 plus 10 15, and it's just running as a straight script, just as you would have written a bash script, but you've written it in Prolog. What about if I want 5 minus 10 minus 5? There we are, we've used quite a clever Prolog language to do a very simple script. Thank you. Next time we will talk about some new and interesting things with Prolog. Not quite sure at the moment what we'll cover. If you have any questions, then please put them in the comments. But bye for now. Thank you.